Moonshine Tales with Digger Mains, an NFDA PAC fundraising event. Join us, live for Moonshine Tales and conversation with TV star Digger Mains, NFDA Secretary Chris Christian, and NFDA lobbyist Leslie Witter. The event includes a photo op, Sugarlands Distilling Co. swag and moonshine samples, and maybe a surprise or two. Digger Mains, renowned for his role on the Discovery Channel's hit show Moonshiners and his partnership with Sugarlands Distilling Co., will share his remarkable journey from working in funeral service to becoming a master moonshiner. Moonshine Tales with Digger Mains, an NFDA PAC fundraising event. It was an evening where the moon hung low and heavy over the rolling hills of a quiet southern town. The air was thick with the kind of humidity that clung to your skin and made every breath feel like a sip of syrup. In the distance, the faint sound of a banjo hummed, interwoven with the occasional thrum of a guitar. The stars, usually so crisp and bright, seemed to be swallowed whole by the thick blanket of clouds. But none of that seemed to matter. It was the kind of night where the past and present collided, stories were spun, and legends were made. Digger Mains, a man whose name had become synonymous with mischief and moonshine, stood tall in the center of it all. The old barn behind him creaked under the weight of its history, having hosted more than one rocker celebration and more than one shadowy deal. The air was buzzing with excitement. Tonight was special. This wasn't just another moonshine tale. It was a fundraiser for the National Funeral Directors Association, NFDA, PAC. The NFDA, an organization whose influence had seeped into every corner of the funeral industry, had long been a symbol of professionalism and unity. But on this particular evening, the PAC fundraiser had a different flavor, a mix of Southern charm, unexpected humor, and a dash of rebellion. The event wasn't about sleek, polished speeches or boardroom negotiations. No, this was about a good time, a good cause, and a legendary storyteller who could weave history into every word. And that storyteller was none other than Digger Mains. Digger had never been one for conventions. His background was a patchwork quilt of colorful characters and tall tales, woven together in the heart of the Appalachian Hills. Born and raised in a small, remote town, he had learned to walk before he could talk and to listen before he could speak. It was his uncle, Jeb, who had taught him the finer points of life in the hills, the art of smooth talking, the joy of good whiskey, and, of course, the intricacies of moonshine. Jeb had made it clear early on that some of the best business deals happen at the crossroads of moonshine and moonlight, where the stars above were often the only witnesses to what transpired beneath them. It was a business of secrecy, a business of trust. But, as Jeb often said, all good things come with a price. Boy, don't you forget it. Digger had inherited that same trust, that same love for the craft of moonshine, but he had taken it further. Instead of keeping his secrets hidden in the backwoods, Digger shared them. He told stories. He invited people in. He made legends out of ordinary folks. And now, that charm and wit were on display for an even more important cause. The NFDA PAC, the fundraiser, appropriately named Moonshine Tales with Digger Mains, was drawing a curious crowd. Funeral directors, industry leaders, and volunteers from across the nation had gathered, their suits and dresses barely a match for the rustic charm of the barn's wooden beams and the flickering candlelight. The event had a purpose, but it had an atmosphere of warmth, camaraderie, and most importantly, fun. As the evening unfolded, Digger took to the makeshift stage in the center of the barn, a slight grin playing across his weathered face. He wasn't exactly a professional speaker, but his reputation preceded him. When Digger spoke, people listened, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Now, folks, I reckon we've all come here tonight for a good time, And that's exactly what we're going to have. Digger began, his voice smooth like honey, but carrying the grit of someone who had lived through it all. But I'll tell you one thing. This event isn't just about raising a few dollars for the NFDA PAC. It's about raising awareness, raising the stakes, and maybe raising a glass or two. The crowd chuckled, and Digger paused to let the laughter die down before continuing. I'm here tonight to tell you a few stories. Some are true, some might be a little bit embellished, as my old man used to say. But what I can promise you is that each one has a lesson, a moral, if you will, that ties into what we're doing here tonight. And before we get too deep into these tales, I want to remind y'all of something important. He lifted his glass, a rough-hewn mason jar filled with clear. This night, this moonshine right here, it's not just for sipping. It's for giving to the future of our industry, to the future of our communities, and to the future of our families. So drink up, but do so with purpose. With a smile, he took a swig, the room following suit. The first tale Davis shared was about the origins of moonshine in the Appalachian Mountains. He spun a tale of a distant ancestor, a man named Elijah Ellie Maines, who had set up the first still in the family's history in the 1800s. It was a small operation, hidden deep in the hills, where the copper still glistened in the moonlight, and the aroma of fermenting corn filled the air. Elijah had been a proud man, but he wasn't foolish. He knew the government would come for their share, and so he became a master of evasion, never seen, never caught. That old man, Digger chuckled, could outrun a government agent on foot and leave him sitting in the dust. But he wasn't just quick with his feet. He was quick with his mind. He knew how to protect what was his, and he passed that skill down to every generation after him. The crowd listened intently as Diva continued, weaving a tale of prohibition, bootlegging, and the rise of an underground economy. The government might have thought they could take down the moonshine industry, but what they didn't know was that it wasn't just about the shine, it was about the people. And the people, my friends, are the backbone of any good business. And that's something I learned from my old Uncle Jeb. Digger took another pause, the room hanging on his every word. As the evening wore on, the crowd was drawn deeper into the world of moonshine. But Digger's tales weren't just about the past, they were about the present too. He shared how the funeral industry, much like the moonshine trade, had gone through its own share of highs and lows. But just like the moonshine business, the funeral business had always found a way to survive, adapt, and thrive. The funeral industry, Digger said, has been around for centuries. And just like moonshine, it's had its ups and downs. But through it all, it's people like you, funeral directors, caregivers, industry leaders, who keep it going. You're the ones who make sure that every life is honored, every family is supported, and every legacy is respected. The crowd grew quiet, the weight of Diva's words sinking in. We're here tonight for more than just a good time. We're here to raise funds, yes, but we're also here to support each other, to ensure that the funeral industry remains strong and that the NFDA PAC can continue to do the good work it's been doing for decades. As the night drew to a close, Digger raised his glass once more. I reckon I've told y'all more than enough stories for one night. But I want to leave you with one last thought, he said, his voice growing serious for a moment. Whether you're in the moonshine business or the funeral business, remember this. It's about the people. The stories we tell, the legacies we build, and the communities we serve. That's what keeps us going. The barn erupted into applause, the clinking of glasses filling the air. And as Digger Maines stepped down from the stage, his moonshine tales having done their job, the guests of the NFDA PAC fundraiser felt a renewed sense of purpose. The evening had been a celebration of history, community, and a cause that would continue to shape the future. It was a night that would be remembered for years to come, the night when moonshine, storytelling, and the funeral industry came together under the same roof for one unforgettable cause.